Hi, I'm on the phone with David Garfinkel. He is the best teacher of copywriting in the world today. How are you doing tonight, David?
Doing great, Ralph. How are you?
I really appreciate the opportunity to have you answer some of these heroes questions. You've been a real hero of mine for a long time. I've seen you at a lot of the different conferences that I've been to.
Thank you.
And probably the first question that I wanted to ask you is, what is your definition of heroism?
Okay. Well, in my mind, a hero is someone who has faced challenges and exhibited great courage in the face of risk and danger. I tend to think of a hero as someone who acts courageously for a goal or for a purpose that's greater than him or herself.
Now, have you ever considered that there's a sort of like a silent type of heroism of people that are sacrificing their lives? I know that in my situation, taking care of my mom and dad, I had no idea the degree of sacrifice that it would take and just how much strength it would to follow through on my original statement that I was going to take care of them.
That's absolutely, yeah. I don't, it's funny, we have this image of heroes because we have such a media culture and a celebrity culture, we tend to think of heroes as the ones who are the best known and who do these great dramatic things. And I think those people are heroes, but I don't think they're the only heroes. I think what you're talking about fits my definition very well. I just saw a movie called Hostage with Bruce Willis. I don't know if you've seen it or
Yeah, I saw that one too.
Any of our listeners have seen it, but I was seeing it with a friend who talks about heroes all the time, and in fact, she's a hero of mine. But and she says things like, when you do her a favor, she'll sometimes say, "Well, you're a hero." But during the movie, there's this scene where there's this young boy, and he's tied up, and he uses broken glass. You remember that scene where he cuts the rope?
Yep.
And my friend, she got all upset because the broken glass was not only cutting the ropes, it was cutting his hand. The blood was spurting all over the place, and she sort of grabbed my arm. But the thing is, he wasn't doing this because he was stupid or just to save himself. He was also trying to save his sister because the bad guys were holding them hostage. And I remember whispering to my friend, "That's what a hero does."
Yeah.
He was sacrificing his own comfort and his own safety to save himself and another person, and that's my definition. Of course, as you know, you don't always literally get your hands bloody, and often a hero is selfless to help more than just one person. I mean, what you're talking about with your own parents is a great example.
Yeah, and also I've seen in working with kids for many, many years is that kids really, truly do have the potential of heroism just within themselves, that a lot of times they don't even realize that they have that potential.
No, and maybe one reason is it's not recognized and valued when it's at a small personal level, but I do. I recognize it, I value it, and you certainly do. You see it? Yeah.
Well, when we were young, I created a secret hero that helped me just overcome all the problems that I had as a kid, being a 99-pound weakling, and big nose, big ears, horn-rimmed glasses. I just sort of hated who I was, and I had this fictional hero in my own mind that kept on telling me, "It's going to be okay, you can do this." Did you ever create a hero in your own mind to help you with life's difficulties?
That's terrific that you did that. That's really great. No, I never did. I'll tell you a little more about heroes in my own life, though. I had some pictures of real heroes on my wall. This is after I was a little older. Thomas Edison and Albert Einstein are real heroes to me. But there are living people. I know some are very famous and some are not.
And
that I can tell you about.
Yeah.
There's a guy named Bob Parsons. He founded a company called GoDaddy, which makes it real easy to do a lot of things on the internet. He's a hero of mine. Steve Jobs is a hero of mine, even though I am not a Mac guy. I don't even like the attitude a lot of people have about Macintoshes. But what Steve did makes him a hero in my mind. Someone we both know, Armin Morin, and what he's done for internet marketers and internet marketing, he's a hero of mine. Mike Stewart, we both know him as well. He's helped ordinary people do things with audio, with recording, and with video on the internet, especially in business. No one else has done. He's a hero of mine. And I know a doctor named Dr. Dave Wojnarowski. He's a friend of mine. I'm a customer of his. He's a client of mine. And he's an MD. He gave up his practice. And this may not sound like a big deal to a lot of people, but you have to understand his father was an MD, and that was, what he was supposed to do, quote unquote. He gave it up. He retired to dedicate his life to creating better nutritional health solutions for people. And, all of those people are heroes.
What is your perspective on goodness, ethics, and moral behavior?
Well, that's a great question. I think that there is such a thing as good, and there is such a thing as evil. No doubt in my mind. But an interesting twist on that is I've come to realize that almost all people consider themselves good, even though other people may consider them evil. For example, I was very interested in writing movies for a long time, and I studied screenwriting, and I'll never forget there is a very famous teacher of screenwriting named Robert McKee, and he said that almost all people believe themselves to be good, and the example he gave, and this is of course what I've come to believe as I just stated it, he said that the people in the mafia, the mobsters, mm-hmm. they call themselves the good people because they believe that because they're providing drugs and prostitution and all of these other things that the middle class and the other people want, they consider them hypocrites. They consider themselves good people because they're not hypocrites. And, I just think everyone should know that, but that doesn't mean I consider them good, okay? I just wanted to state that people have different points of view. In terms of what I believe in what some people call the law of cause and effect. In the Bible, there's a saying, as you sow, so shall you reap.
Yeah.
And there's from the subcontinent of India, there's a concept of karma. It's the same idea. I believe that if you do things that you consider evil, then evil things will befall you. And if you do things that are good things will come to you. Not always right away and not always in ways that you would have expected. And I think in terms of being ethical, it's a lot harder to be ethical in the short run. But because of the law of cause and effect, it's much easier in the long run. And I also believe, and I think, for all the kids who are listening to this, I'd really, really like to say this, that the happiest people, the most wealthy people, the most successful people, they have either they started to or they eventually grew to have a long-term perspective on life. They do things for the long run.
It's funny that you talk about people thinking themselves good. One of the first heroes that we interviewed was Gregory Alan Williams. He was one of the stars on Baywatch. He was the cop Sergeant Ellerby, and he was a Shakespearean actor, and he actually saved the life of an Asian man during the L.A. riots. He was able to get the guy out of the car while he was being beaten to death.
Really?
And he was an Asian guy, and Gregory Alan Williams is a black guy, and so when the mob turned on him to kill him and finish off the Asian guy, there was a Mexican gentleman that stepped in to take the beating so he could get him to the injured guy to the neighbors so that they could get him to the hospital. And I still remember this one quote that he said. He says, "There's a little bit of good in the worst of us and a little bit of bad in the best of us," and that people rise up to be heroes when they step up and do something to help others.
That's right. I agree with you. That's a wonderful story. Anybody
at any time could be a hero if they just did something good to help somebody else.
Yes.
Everybody's had low points in their life. What was the lowest point in your life, and how did you change your life path to win a victory over all obstacles?
Well, there were a couple things that come to mind. One was when my father died when I was 19, and I don't have much to tell you about what I did, because I don't think I did anything particularly heroic. I just went on with my life. I don't know if I've done anything heroic at the other low point. I think the very worst time was, it was about 20 years later, when I was around 40, and I'd been trying to build a business for 8 years, and I'd been trying to do everything right, and I'd been doing many things wrong without knowing it, and I was broke, and my business was crumbling, and the IRS had frozen my bank account.
Nice.
And there were a couple of things. I can't say I remember a day when this happened, but I think that fairly rapidly I came to make a couple of changes. One is I learned what I call the entrepreneur's secret, and I'll tell you this. I came to recognize later from an excellent coach named Dan Sullivan. He has something called Strategic Coach. It's for entrepreneurs. The entrepreneur's secret is very different from the entitlement mentality, and I know those are big words for a lot of people. But the entitlement mentality is the world owes me a living, and screw you, give me what's mine. The entrepreneur's secret is that you have to create and deliver a massive amount of value before you can really expect anything in return. You have to step up first. So that's one thing that changed things for me. And another thing was when I switched my focus from being a narrative writer. See, I'd been a professional writer as a journalist, and I think that the people who do that, they serve a very important function. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I'm saying for me, what really changed my life and changed not only my financial fortune, but also allowed me to do more things for more people, is I switched my focus from being that kind of writer who just told stories to being a copywriter who also told stories, but told stories that help people to improve their lives and help businesses to make more money. And, my own belief is that when you can do that, when you can tell a story that's going to have a positive effect on someone, whether it's internal, like inspiration, or whether it's external, like helping a person in business to make more money, that's when you can really make a difference for them.
Was your dad a hero to you? I know that when you're 19 you mentioned that he died. Was he that type of person?
Well, I looked up to him. I don't know if I'd call him a hero. I mean, I missed him terribly. I didn't, I guess I would say no, he wasn't, because I didn't want to live the same kind of life he had lived. I don't mean about getting sick and dying, but no, I wouldn't say he was a hero.
He wasn't a hero.
I respected him and I loved him, but I wouldn't put him in the hero category.
Yeah. Well, do you have a dream or a vision that sets your course of life?
Well, actually, I'm really glad you just asked me the question, because I think I'm going to probably do an about-face on my last answer about my dad. When I was about 15, and this was about 4 years before my dad died, he was writing this book with his boss, and my dad was a scientist, and he was having such a hard time writing the book. And, writing has always come easily to me. Now, I'm going to make a little distinction here. Writing well, that never comes easy to me, but actually just getting words down on the page, writing, that's always been easy. He was having the hardest time, and I really wanted to help him. I wanted to help him so bad, Ralph. And I offered to, and of course, it was, nice of me to do that, but I didn't know how I could help him, and, I didn't understand anything about physics or what he was writing about. And I remember he looked at me and he said, David, if you could do that, if you could help people to write more easily, that would be the most wonderful thing. And I think more than being a hero, he was an inspiration for my dream or my vision, because I've created the World Copywriting Institute, and I have a vision of eradicating copywriting illiteracy in this world. And what's copywriting illiteracy? Well, it doesn't mean that you don't know how to write. It doesn't mean that you can't read or write, which is what people normally think of as illiteracy. What I call copywriting illiteracy is the inability to write words that prompt other people to do something, to take action. And I would say that someone is copywriting illiterate, even if they are a copywriter or they work for an ad agency or anything, if they can only write advertising that doesn't work, that doesn't actually inspire or motivate other people to take action. And so this is a long-term goal, to eradicate copywriting illiteracy in the world. And this is the vision for the rest of my life.
Wow, that's a great vision, because a part of the Heroes program is once the kids learn to find their own hero within and then go and publicize local heroes. Their job will be to write copy, good sales copy that will promote that person's business in the local community so that they can afford to do more good things in the community itself. And then once the kids get out of school, then they become the ultimate copywriting resource for all their local businesses, because a lot of times small businesses can hire kids, but they can't hire copywriters like yourself at $500 an hour. So we're
Ralph,
hoping
thank you. That is such a wonderful goal that you have for your program.
I guess we're both optimists and wanting to change the world in a specific way to make it a better place, starting off with the kids.
Yeah.
You obviously are an optimist.
I am an optimist, but I'm also a pragmatist. See, excuse me, I know that things always work out best in the end if you stay the course, if you persevere. But I also know that we don't always know. We usually don't know what's going to happen along the way.
Boy, isn't that true?
Yeah. There's a very controversial author named Robert Ringer. He wrote a book called Winning Through Intimidation, $1 Million Habits, Looking Out for Number One. A lot of people think he's all about selfishness, and he's really not, in my opinion, but he has a really neat concept called positive thinking with the expectation of a negative result. And what he means by that is that, yeah, things are going to work out, but they're not always going to work out this time exactly the way you expect them. That you're going to have a lot of false starts, and you're going to have a lot of disappointments along the way. And if you expect that, it's not going to destroy you. It's just going to remind you that you're on your path and you have to keep at it. To use a baseball analogy, you have to swing and a few times, and you have to miss sometimes before you get a hit. You can't win all the time. And I've gotten to the point in my life now, and yeah, I'm a big optimist. A lot of people can't believe how optimistic I am. And yet, I consider a project or even a day to be a success as long as I've won more than I've lost. It doesn't mean that everything's been a win. It just means that I win more than I lose.
That's a great concept. You look at the flip side and what everybody is expecting, instant gratification, and when people don't get that instant gratification, they sort of get embittered and they start saying that no good deed goes unpunished.
Well, see, I love instant gratification. I do. That's maybe why I'm a copywriter, because I understand that concept in others. And if you can appeal to people's sense of getting a real quick reward, your copy will work better. But I also have 51 years of life experience, and I just have seen the way things go for me and for everyone else.
Do you think it's hard for people to change, and it takes a lot of courage to pursue new ideas?
Yeah, I think it is hard. I think for most people it's very hard, and I think I've been blessed in that I have that courage. It's one of my greatest strengths. Courage, by the way, doesn't mean fearlessness in my mind. Courage means willingness to act in the face of fear.
Mm-hmm.
I want to tell you, Ralph, I've also learned to hear and to listen to and to trust my intuition. And that's important with new ideas. And I want to say something. The world does not easily accept new ideas. And if you have new ideas, that's going to be a lesson for most people. So you have to learn how to sell, and you have to learn how to accept rejection. The idea isn't just, and this, especially when you know the idea is right and people all around you are just shaking their heads or even, violently, arguing with you, and you have to endure that. You have to endure temporary setbacks. The other thing is you have to understand that not every new idea is a good idea. But if you believe in something with all your heart and soul, and you can be open to feedback, and you have to understand that most new ideas have the germ of a good idea in them, but it might not be the way you originally expected it. And experience over time helps you a lot improve your success ratio.
So do you feel that when you're pursuing your dreams that you're probably going to experience a lot of discomfort in that process?
Yeah, you have to. And let me tell you, it's different than you might expect if you've never done it, because even when things are going good, even when you're winning, there are frustrations. It's just the nature of life. And the other thing is, when you're pursuing your dreams, you're not the same person today that you were a week ago. If you're really pursuing your dreams, you start to grow. You start to become more than you were. And a funny thing happens when you start to grow. What happens is you become a different person in the same world, so the world's reacting to you differently, and you're not going to quite believe all the things that are happening. You're not going to be familiar with them. You're going to be out of your comfort zone. And when you're out of your comfort zone, that's the definition of discomfort, right?
Yeah.
But that's not an issue for me. In fact, for me these days, I'd say it's more uncomfortable to do nothing than to do something that's a little uncomfortable.
I know that to attain your dreams, you have to believe that they can become reality. How long did it take it for your dream to be the greatest copywriter teacher to become reality?
It didn't take that long. I mean, I think I first sort of owned that, claimed that, discovered that, asserted that in the late 90s, and here we are, 2005, and I would say by 1991, 1992, or by 2001, 2002 rather, I was there. I mean, not everyone accepted, but no one has ever said, "Nah, David, I'm a better copywriting teacher than you, and here's the proof." It didn't take that long. But one thing is, there were a lot of other goals and dreams that I had before that had the seed of this, the essence of this. I was writing, since I was first published when I was 8, and I was a professional writer in my 20s, and I was doing seminars in the 80s, teaching people to write, but not copywriting.
Yeah.
And so, it took a while for me to see this particular dream. But whenever I've had a dream, not necessarily as big as this, they've always become reality. And there are a couple important things that I've learned about that. One is you can create an outcome of your dream, the end results. But a lot of people, I don't know if a lot of people, I think a lot of people, though, certainly me, I used to think, okay, if I can be in charge of the outcome, then I can be in charge of my path to get there. This is what it's going to look like. And that part's not true. You don't know what you're going to go through. After all, if you did, then you would already be there, because it's an adventure to achieve a dream. You have to become someone else. You're the same person, but you have to become more of who you truly are. And that's an adventure, and there are unknowns. Maybe nobody knows. Maybe you're blazing a trail that's never been blazed before. The other thing is, you're not in control of the timetable either. I mean, I know that a lot of people suggest that you set goals with specific dates on them, and I do that. Mm-hmm. But I find that it doesn't always work out that way. Sometimes it takes longer, and sometimes it happens a lot faster, because, ultimately, I think we're not in control. There's something bigger than all of us. I would call it God. A lot of people call what's in control God. Other people have other names for it. And I think it's funny. It's a delicate balance. You have to do your part. You have to give it your all. You have to try to control it, but then you have to understand that there's more to this than just you.
Well, when you're pursuing your dreams and you're striving to be the best that you possibly can, and given the realization that you're not going to get anything until you actually give everything that you can,
yes,
that you're sort of just prey to doubts and fears. I know that great people like yourself, that along the pathway, and just when you're going through the difficult times of life, that fear and doubt seems to just rear its ugly head. How did you overcome that?
Well, what I find is I have a lot of doubts until I make a decision. Once I make a decision and I'm fully committed, I don't have any doubts anymore. And I really can't explain this because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But, excuse me, doubts are not usually a problem for me. Fears are very real. And I would be lying to you if I said I didn't have fears. I do. And I've even learned that a lot of the fears for me, and I bet for other people too, disguise themselves as something else. I mean, I know what it is to be shaking with fear, but I also know what it is to feel very tired or to come up with all these excuses or to feel overwhelmed. I now believe those are just fear in other clothing. And the way I've learned, I wouldn't say I've overcome them, Ralph. I'd say that I've learned to live with it. It's about acting, and I think faith is the answer for me. And I'm not a religious person. I want to be very clear. I'm a spiritual person. I believe that there's more to us than we can see or observe with our senses. But I don't go to temple or church or any. I'm just sort of a independent person in that way. And yet, it is faith. It's faith in God, and it's faith in this process that helps me get there. The other thing I want to say is, I'm a creative person, and well, you are too. I mean, you had an imaginary hero who helped you through some tough times, right?
He's still with me.
Yeah, well, that's good. And our imaginations can go in all different directions. And for me, I've imagined some horrible things that were going to happen to me when I was afraid. The worst things I've ever feared have never once come to pass.
So you feel that 90% of the things that we fear and worry about never become reality?
I don't know if I would put a number on that. I think if you worry about something long enough, it will become a reality. I think that whatever you focus on is what your life tends to become. But I think that if you worry about something once and I think a lot of worries go away when you take action towards a goal that's meaningful to you.
So do you believe that fear of failure is probably the most crippling element in most people's lives that keeps them from achieving the success that they desire?
That might be. Yeah, I think I don't know if it's the most, but I think it's probably lack of permission and lack of belief in the possibility. But fear of failure is right up there. There's a wonderful book that I read constantly. I just read snippets from. I keep it in my bathroom, and it's called Failing Forward by John Maxwell. And he documents in a very down-to-earth, understandable way how failure is part of the success process and how you can't succeed at something without going through failure. So I think fear of failure is, it's a big impediment towards people getting what they want.
Do you experience service to others as a source of joy in your life?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. let me tell you a story. As you know, and as anyone listening to this interview can tell, I'm a talker. I'm a speaker. I talk a lot. And one of the things that people like me do is sometimes we'll find other people who are good at transcribing stuff to transcribe it for us. And so I have one friend. I just had breakfast with him the other day, and I used to hire him to do transcription. I don't that much anymore, but we're still friends, and he has other clients, and we've gone different ways in our lives a lot. But he was telling me, in my, 5-10 years ago, he's a very, very intelligent man, and he learned a lot, and he said a friend of his ended up with breast cancer.
Wow.
And he wanted to raise some money for her, and he remembered what he had learned from me. I mean, I hadn't taken him on as a student. I hadn't mentored him, but he just had learned it from listening to my materials. He ended up writing a letter for her that raised $7,000.
Wow.
And this guy's not a copywriter, and I cannot tell you the joy that brought me. When I hold very expensive seminars, and I mentor people. It's very expensive, and there's nothing that brings me more joy than when one of those people has a win and has a breakthrough. But I have a free newsletter, and I have a free blog, and I try and give away a lot of content because, I have to make a living, and
sure.
and for what I want to do, I need a lot of money I'm not talking about changing one copywriter's life. I'm talking about the whole world. But I also want to reach as many people as I can. I know some people can't afford it, and there are a lot of people who are not willing to pay what it's worth. And so they may not get the same value as those who are, but they can get something. And often I'll send something in my newsletter, and I'll get emails back from people, and they say, David, what you just told me solved a problem that I've been wrestling with. Thank you so much. And Ralph, that brings me more joy than when I get a big check and I put it in the bank. A lot more joy. And I certainly like money, and I certainly like making money, and I like helping other people make money, but it's not my biggest joy in life.
How can people benefit from your newsletter and your blog? What are the URLs of those?
Oh, that's easy. The newsletter is called the World Copywriting Newsletter, and the URL for that is copynewsletter.com. COPYNEWSLETTER newsletter, copynewsletter.com. The blog, I don't have an easy-to-remember URL, so I'm just going to tell you that the easiest way to get to the blog is, well, first of all, if you sign up for my newsletter, I'll send you an email the day afterwards automatically. Or the other way is just go to Google and type in World Copywriting, and spell copywriting COPYWRITING, and then third word blog, BLOG, and you'll get a lot of links to it. And there's a more complicated way, which I'll tell you, but I don't expect people even to get this. It's world-copywriting-institute.com/blog. But the easiest thing is just type in copywriting blog. I think I've got like the top search engine positions with my blog.
That's great. Well, I know I've been at a lot of the conferences taking photos of everybody, and you seem to have a good sense of humor. How has that been able to help you in the face of serious problems?
I'm gonna answer that a couple ways, okay? Because often when I'm under a lot of stress, I can tell I'm under a lot of stress because my sense of humor just goes. Boom. I mean, when things get really tense, my sense of humor disappears. But on the other hand, when I can't exactly say I'm relaxed when times when I'm relaxed when things aren't going so well. But once I get over some crisis points, humor is what carries me through. I think it's so important. And joking around with friends, listening to comedy that I think is funny, those kind of things. I mean, it's what's carried me through, Ralph. I mean, my thought is, if I didn't have that, I don't know if I could have made it this far.
I believe that's true. Who do you feel the real heroes in our society today?
Well, I think anyone who's trying to make a difference in the lives of others is a hero.
I do too.
I mean, there are all kinds of people that get recognition in the media, and they're famous and they write books about it. And those people are heroes. There's no doubt about it. But I think there are people in all walks of life, and I want to say something important that I think people need to realize. We look to others for signs of how we're doing, but a hero is not always going to be recognized by everyone as a hero. Some heroes run up against tremendous opposition.
Well, that's true.
And I also want to say that just because I think someone's not a hero, maybe someone's not a hero to me or I don't like him, doesn't mean they're not a hero. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, this is, I guess, most obvious in politics or in competition. You know, I mean, you could have a quarterback for a team that you didn't like, and he could still be a hero, you know.
Yeah.
But maybe you don't think so, but he could be. I mean, he's helping his teammates out, or he's helping kids, or he's, you know, helping with a fundraising drive to wipe out a disease or something. You know, the other thing is, because we have this star-studded society, and you know, I've come to realize that in a very limited way, I'm sort of a celebrity. You know, not like a household name or anything, but you know, in the particular world that we know about with the marketing seminars, the entrepreneur seminars, and you tend to see people are always looking to find out who the celebrities are. Yeah, we may be heroes. I understand I'm a hero to people. I think that's great. But I also want to say that, you know, ordinary people in life, I mean, a teacher at a school can be a hero. A coach can be a hero. A brother can be a hero to his little brother. A sister can be a hero to her brother or her sister. The guy who owns the corner store could be a hero. An executive in a business you've never heard of could be a hero. An athlete could be a hero. I'd say it's anyone who's putting in some time in their life, making some effort to make the world a better place. You know, my mother is she's still alive, which I'm grateful for. I just talked to her today. In fact, I mentioned before this call that her poor woman, her phone is only taking calls in. She can't make calls out, and she can't use the internet until Saturday when the phone company finally get around. Verizon can get its little truck over to her house and fix the phone. I mean, she, at the age of, I don't know if I'm allowed to say her age, but she's older than I am, and I'm 51, so you do the math, and she goes to the schools, and she mentors kids who've come in from other countries and who need help. And I mean, that's heroic to me. She's a hero for doing that.
Yep.
You know, I mean, I'm so proud of her. I'm probably stupid never having told her that, but she said she wanted to listen to this interview. So there you go, Mom. I'm really proud of you. You're my hero.
So you think that heroes are really important in the lives of young people?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, we tend to have this very, very ennobled, you know, sophisticated, superior, advanced view of ourselves as people. We tend to see ourselves as, you know, this really advanced race of people, all of us, and all 6 or 7 billion of us. But there's something I know as a teacher, and that is that we learn by imitating. The old monkey see, monkey do thing. It's true. I don't care if the person is a world-class athlete, a genius, you know, a leader, head of a corporate. It doesn't matter. People will look to other people for cues, and that's where leadership comes in. That's where heroes come in. You know, there's a joke. Maybe you've heard. Hopefully not your parents, but some parents say this, and sometimes people say this in life. They say, "Do as I say, not as I do."
Yep.
And that's ironic. That's funny, but it's also backwards from the way life really works. And I think these days, with all the negativity and all the confusion in our world, we need heroes more than ever. And kids really need heroes and positive role models. Just as an example of what to do. Yeah,
I know what you mean, and you know, it's so important. I think you've pretty much defined how people become heroes in helping other individuals, and I see that you're making the world a better place through your copywriting college and helping people learn how to transform their lives and the lives of others financially by being able to write copy that actually generates income.
Thank you, Ralph.
Because let's face it, that's what makes the world go round.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's not just money, but there's a guy who trains people to sell, a guy named Zig Ziglar. He says, money's not everything, but it's right up there with oxygen.
That's true. Life is better with it than without it.
It sure is.
What do you think about the Search for Heroes program and its impact on the youth and parents and business people?
I think it's such a great idea, and I know you've had this idea for a while, and until, you sent me these questions and I had a chance to think about them, I didn't realize how important it is and why it's important. And, I think one of the most important things is that we don't talk about heroes that much as a society in general. I know that there are programs, there are leadership things, there are organizations that do, but I mean as a society as a whole. And to go out to schools and tell kids, hey, you don't have to turn on the TV set or go to the movie theater or open the newspaper to find heroes. You can find them right in your own backyard, in your own school, in your own community. You can find business people who are heroes. I think that's terrific. I also want to say there's so much negativity these days. It's almost cool to be cynical and it's been that way for a while in our society. It seems to run through the course and the fabric of everyday life, and I think you're doing something to offer an alternative to that, Ralph, and that's great.
I was just listening to a tape today, and they said that 80% of all the news that people hear on TV, most people watch TV about 30 hours a week, is about negative things that people have no ability to have any impact on at all, other than just creating fear in their lives.
Yeah, I think that's true, and I also know that from a marketing point of view, somebody tried once to come up with a newspaper that had only good news and they couldn't sell anything. So, I think we're oriented towards that. It's a complex problem, but nevertheless, we are looking for good news. We are looking for things to feel good about. We are looking for people to inspire us, people that we can identify with, people that we can relate to, and if you can help people focus on that, and you are. I mean, the fact that you're doing that is very positive. It's very important.
What do you think of the things that parents can do that will help their children realize that they too can be heroes and that they can make a positive impact on the lives of others?
Well, the first thing I would say is that parents should encourage their kids to try new things, and parents need to help children understand about risk, because it's important to take risks, but it's important not to take crazy risks. You need to, and a lot of parents, if you grew up with parents who were risk takers, you might have a better sense of that. If you didn't, you may have to learn the hard way, and ultimately, the worst hard way is you take such a big risk that you die, and then you don't get to take any more.
That's true.
So you need to learn to answer the question, what's the worst thing that could happen? And if you can't handle the worst thing that could happen, you need to take a smaller risk. But I think parents need to encourage kids to learn how to take risks that they can handle. And there's another thing. I think parents can demonstrate helping others by their own actions, not just their own words. I don't think parents need to be perfect, nor can they. There's no perfect being on this planet walking around in a body that I know of. Okay?
Yeah.
But I think that doesn't, just because he can't be perfect doesn't mean he can't be good. And you can't focus on what's good inside you. And I think by demonstrating the activity of helping others with their own actions and not just their words, parents can be very, very helpful in empowering their kids to realize they can do the same thing. And I think it's also good to plan, and I'm not a parent, so I'm talking a little out of my area of direct experience here, but I still think that, to do activities together that celebrate acts of heroism and the hero point of view, people positive accomplishments, acts of service, by doing those kind of things together, that's excuse me, that's probably the most important thing.
Yeah, I believe that's true. As your final question, this is one of my favorite ones. I was wondering what you thought about this. If you had 3 wishes for your life in the world that would come true instantly, what would they be? 3 wishes for your life in the world.
You know, I just don't know. I think that the world is. I mean, I believe that the world is a classroom for everybody all the time, but it's a different classroom for each person. You know, I mean, I think part of our path here is to learn the rules, the way things work, to learn who we are and what we're here to do, and if what we're here to do is to make the world a better place, then I think it's important that we find a way to do that. I'm not sure that everyone is here for that. I don't know. I mean, as you know, Ralph, when I was a little kid, my mother tells me my parents had a nickname for me, and the nickname was Instant Coffee, because I wanted stuff and I wanted it now. I didn't even want to take the time to brew the coffee.
Yeah.
Well, these days I brew my coffee. Tastes better. And I think that one of God's greatest gifts to us is the fact that things don't always happen instantly, that there is a process and that we can learn and we can experience the joys of that, and even that we can experience the pain of learning how not to do things so that we have a real reason not to do things the wrong way again.
So sort of a learning experience then.
Yeah.
Sort of like you can't learn what you need to do until you fail doing it a number of times the wrong way.
I think so. And I also, you know, it's funny, one of the most valuable things in my life was studying screenwriting, even though my own life path has gone in a different direction. And I remember one of my teachers, not the teacher, but his wife, I think he was a wise man. She was a lot wiser. And I remember that she told me that somebody said, you can't really learn anything until you've learned it and forgotten it 7 times. And it sounds silly. And, you know, the way we learn in school is you're supposed to learn it once and get it right in the test, and they don't seem to think much about how much you're going to know it later, you know. But I think that understanding that it's not only about failing. Failing is important, and it's not only about doing it wrong, but it's about repetition. I mean, I think one of the greatest movies anyone can watch is The Karate Kid, and Mr. Miyagi going wax on, wax off, you know, and he's making the kid, you know, wax all of his cars, and the kid's going nuts. And then when it comes time to fight, he realizes that through the repetition, he has learned how to protect himself against a punch better than he ever would have thought. You see, and so there's a lot of value in doing things right over and over again too.
You think that's the best way to actually ingrain it into a person's mind so it becomes a reflexive action? So they're ready for their moment of great glory because they've practiced, they put in the work, and they put in the effort so that when the moment comes to experience great success, they're ready. Yeah,
I think so. I mean, I think you want to be open to failure, but you want to focus on success. And I think when you find something that works, and maybe this is a problem for a lot of people, especially creative, adventurous people. If you find something that works And I've noticed this with businesses that I've worked with too, that they found something that works and then they get bored with it, so they go off and try and find all the things that don't work instead of sticking to the thing that works. You got to have a combination of both.
So you feel it's important to have a balance in life, a balance of success, and a balance of failure.
I don't think you need to seek out any more failure. I think it'll find you, but I think you need to allow for failure and not see it as a bad thing. Just understand failure is one of the stepping stones on the path to your next success.
So rather than call it failure, you just think that it's sort of like Thomas Edison. He just found a gazillion ways that the light bulb didn't work, rather than identifying it as a failure just as a way that didn't actually work.
I think you got to be careful about words. I think in Thomas Edison's case, that's true. He was looking for the one way it was going to work, and he found 10,000 ways it didn't. I think it's okay to say failure, and it's okay to experience it, and pick yourself up, dust yourself off. Most important, think about what happened, and think about what you learned from it, and try not to make the same mistakes too often.
So do you think that even though we do fail, that doesn't make us failures?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's a great point. The biggest successes have had more failures than most people who consider themselves failures. A lot of people just give up when they fail once, and they think, oh, well, I'm a failure. No, you just experienced one failure on the path to success. And it's resilience, it's bounce back, it's being able to say, okay, so that didn't work. Okay, I failed on that. Okay, no big deal. I'm not going to do that again. Let me try a different way. Or let me try and do it right. Or let me try and do it the way I was trying to do it, but get it right this time instead of get it wrong. That's okay.
Do you feel it's important just to say, I'm never going to give up, I'm going to keep on trying until I finally figure out the way that it works?
That's been important for me. And also, I think you need to realize that sometimes changing your plans, changing your course correction, adjustment, you have to be careful about that too, because you can become so headstrong about a goal that's not really the goal that you should be going after. I think you just need to be alert and aware. But yeah, you need to if you know there's something you're supposed to do, if you really know in your heart there's something that's right for you, never give up. Keep at it. But be willing to try different ways. Be willing to be flexible. Be willing to be open to new information, feedback.
You think that's where the heroes in people's lives come in handy in helping to guide them in the direction that's best for them?
I think of people like that more like teachers, coaches, and mentors. But I think a teacher, a coach, and a mentor can certainly be a hero.
Yeah, absolutely, because they definitely take kids' lives and help get to know the kids on who they are, and then they help direct them on a pathway that they don't even know would be the best, just like your dad. I think you're becoming a great teacher of copywriters. That seed started back when you were 15, and your dad gave you that compliment.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think, well, who knows? I don't know what he knew. I certainly didn't know it at the time. I just thought, oh, okay, and I went off and did something else. and the funny thing about that, Ralph, is I didn't even realize till a couple of years, I didn't even remember that. It has been like sort of developing in my unconscious mind for a long time, that whole incident with my father.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, I really appreciate your time and just coming on the phone for your In Search of Heroes interview. And is there one piece of wisdom you'd like to leave for the kids?
Yeah. It's tough being a kid. It's tough because you feel like you're an adult sometimes, and all these people are putting all this pressure on you, and you have all these responsibilities, and yet you don't have all the privileges of being an adult. And you have all these people telling you what to do, and you get these conflicting signals. And all I can say is stick with it. Every person listening to this, including you who's listening to this, you have something that you came here to do. And you may know what it is, or you may not know what it is. But if you can stick around and keep your eyes open, be curious, be willing to try things, and be willing to get help and be willing to help others, you can have a life better and more fulfilling and more exciting and more important than you ever imagined.
That's really great, David. I really appreciate your time, and again, thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks, Ralph.
I hope to see you at the big seminar.
Yeah, I will see you there. This was fun.
Okay, you take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks.